Alright, now that the first part is out of the way, hopefully this second part can end things. Bring it home, Denis.
Use me, Paul Atreides. We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope! May thy knife chip and shatter.
Dune Part 2 was directed by Denis Villeneuve once again, with a screenplay from Denis Villeneuve and Jon Spaihts. The film is based on Frank Herbert's first book in Dune series. The film has a star-studded cast, some returning and some newcomers, including Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Bautista, Christopher Walken, Seydoux, Yacoub, Stellan Skargård, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Paul Atreides unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge against the co-conspirators who destroyed his family. So, I don't need to tell you guys this. If you watch my Dune or Dune Part 1 review, you know how much I love that movie. You know how much I really respected the hell that Denis Villeneuve did with bringing Frank Herbert's book to life on the big screen in 37 years. And to see him now make a sequel following the critical and commercial success to that movie, it was only inevitable that there would be a sequel, so thankfully we are getting one now. Unfortunately, even though we were supposed to get this movie last year, and due to those great strikes, thanks you Hollywood execs, love you. We are finally getting it now that that's all settled with. We are finally getting the second part to Denis Villeneuve's critically acclaimed film from 2021. I would say now that the film has been released, Villeneuve strikes again and has made a worthy sequel that concludes the first book on a satisfying note. And I am so proud to say that, you guys, because man oh man, you would never think a sequel can at the very least live up to, or at the very least be on the same standards as the first movie, and man, Denis Villeneuve really knocked it out of the park again, you guys. Here are some of the positives that I found with the movie. Performances are all top-notch. Timothée Chalamet continues to shine as Paul Atreides. Not only does he have to deal with his family's slaughtering, but also having to be pressured into being the Lisa Gaib, or the Messiah, an off-world prophet for the Fremen. It was prophesied through the Fremen that there would be a Messiah that would save them and free their planet of Arrakis and bring life back to it. And essentially, they see Paul as being that Messiah. Chalamet also plays Paul as being conflicted with being part of the Fremen than being the Messiah. He doesn't want to accept the responsibilities of being the Messiah. He doesn't want it at all. He just wants to be part of the Fremen. He just wants to be a part of their group, and he wants them all to unite together rather than having an individual person be that. Zendaya is excellent as Chani, a young Fremen warrior who is Paul's love interest. The reason why I never mentioned her in the first movie is because you don't really hardly see her that much. And I mean, similar to the first half of the first book, in that you don't really see her that much, so I didn't really think it was necessary to bring her up in the first review. But here, I can confidently say I really dug Zendaya as Chani. I think she really plays her differently than how Chani is in the book. I think in the book, she's a little bit more of a typical love interest who follows Paul, even helping him becoming the Messiah, and was pretty much portrayed the same way in Lynch's 84 film. But in this movie, I can really say she is more of a defiant and tough woman, which works, I think, well due to Zendaya's performance. I think because of her and her alone, I think they were able to make Chani feel more of a badass, or at the very least be more headstrong than she's ever been portrayed as. And I also think that both Chalamet and Zendaya work really well off of each other. When you watch them together, you really believe in their relationship, and seeing them care for each other is the most powerful part of the film. Seeing these two outsiders, these outworlders coming together. I really bought the relationship in being in love with each other. I think it really captivates the audiences to watch their story unfold together. Rebecca Ferguson continues to succeed as Lady Jessica. She becomes powerful and terrifying in the film, you guys. The way she manipulates Paul and twists words makes Ferguson captivating to watch. To see her really try to play up this whole persona for Paul of being the Messiah, to prop him up, it's really captivating to see how much Rebecca Ferguson plays Jessica at this point of being a manipulative mother, in a way. Essentially guilt tripping him into becoming Louisa Gaib of the Fremen. Just like the first movie, Chalamet and Ferguson continue to have like great chemistry with each other, almost pitting them against one another with the whole Messiah ordeal. I think it works really well with setting up that conflict of the Messiah. Who is the Messiah? Who is the prophet? And to see Paul not wanting to accept it, but having Lady Jessica kind of manipulate people into believing that her son is really great to see them kind of now be different sides of one another. Paul not wanting to take it, Jessica trying to manipulate people into believing that he is. And I think they are really excellent on screen together. Josh Brolin returns once again as Gurney, and I think Brolin keeps that same energy from the first film. He continues to show Gurney's humorous and deadly nature more than the first movie ever showed him. Once again, both Chalamet and Brolin play off each other really well, echoing the relationship that Gurney had with Paul's father, Leo. In a way, mentor-mentee, but really just echoing of Paul's father that you saw in the first movie with Oscar Isaac and Josh Brolin. You kind of see that with Timothée Chalamet and Josh Brolin, and seeing their relationship grow and evolve in the film is really exciting and worthwhile watching these two play off each other. Austin Butler is scary and as psychotic as Faye Rafa Harkonnen. Pretty much he is the Baron's other nephew, and he's Dave Bautista's Rabin's younger brother. Butler perfectly captures Faye as being the polar opposite of Paul. And that, I think, is what they have been saying throughout the marketing of this movie, is that he's supposed to be the opposite, the antithesis of who Paul Atreides is. While Paul is more humble and respectful, Fate is a self-centered and despicable man through and through. He's all in it for himself. He's all about the glory. He's all about the power. And I think it's because of Austin Butler that he really emphasizes that nature of who Fade Rafa is. And I think just the Harkonnens as a whole. Florence Pugh, another addition to the movie, brings, I think, curiosity and resilience as Princess Irulan, who is the Emperor's daughter. She questions the status of Paul and kind of questions the complications of her father's actions of murdering the Atreides, seeing as that he was the one that ordered the Harkonnens to wipe them all out along with his private army. And it really makes you respect Florence Pugh as an actress, and I always like seeing her in films, and I'm always excited to see her take on much bigger projects, because she's really good in the film, man. Speaking of father, Christopher Walken plays a more subdued and commanding performance as Shaddam IV, the Emperor of the Unknown Universe, and he's the head of House Corrino. Without having to go full Walken, because as we all know, Christopher Walken can go full on Walken. If you've seen most of his movies, you can tell when he can kind of have that energy to him. He makes the Emperor a man who only seeks power for himself and fears anyone who challenges him, to the point of he's willing to do nasty things in order to get what he wants. And that's essentially what you see in the first movie. You saw what he was willing to go through to murder the Atreides. Walken does a great job with the little screen time that he's given, and I think it was wise enough to not have him be there 100% all the time, because I do think that if he had overstayed his welcome, it could have gotten a little bit old. But thankfully, he's not in it for that long, so it works perfectly. Stellan Skarsgård returns as the vile and diabolical Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Just like the first movie, I think Skarsgård continues to be imposing and detestable in the film, and I also really like both Skarsgård and Butler together, and I think they have great scenes with each other, showing that this family relationship, just showing how this family is really deplorable and just despicable towards anybody, even to themselves, like to anybody under them. And lastly, I think Javier Bardem continues to be hilarious and as wise as Stilgard, and I really think that the film continues to show Stilgard's leadership and belief in Paul as being the Messiah. And you really get to further develop who Stilgard is and what he really truly believes in. And Javier Bardem has some pretty funny moments in the film. But with this movie, I think both Bardem and Chalamet work very well off of each other, and it's very much, like I said, with Chalamet and Brolin, I think it does feel like a mentor-mentee type of way towards one another. And I think that's the strongest part of the movie, to see these two really work well is phenomenal. The direction is stellar. I think director Denis Villeneuve once again truly understands this world to a T. He still does an incredible job on respecting the source material while being accessible for newcomers to understand where the story is going. Like I said with that first movie, man, he knows how to make this easy for audiences to digest and to understand, and that is what I respect out of a director who can really, truly understand this world and making it simple for audiences. And that I give huge props to him. The music is fantastic, man. Again, Hans Zimmer continues to be one of the greatest composers we have living to date. He just knows how to make a score feel epic in so many ways, and he just really captures the way Dune should feel in terms of how its music should come across, and I really love it, man. Love the score in this film. The cinematography is beautiful. Cinematographer Gray Fraser returns and still knocks it out of the park. Every shot not only looks spectacular, but almost in a way, when you look at the movie, it kind of feels like Stanley Kubrick in a way. The way shots are, the way it's framed, especially the color palette that's on display throughout the film. I mean, near the beginning of the movie, I could clearly feel anybody could get confused with it looking like 2001: A Space Odyssey because of how well the look of Arrakis looks like with the sun low and how gorgeous it is when at dusk, pretty much. And it's incredible to look at when you see throughout this movie how much everything just feels so alive. And I love Greg Fraser's work on making this world come to life through his command of the camera. The production is stunning. I think every costume, props, sets, and locations are just top notch. Everything just looks stellar and detailed that makes the audiences be amazed. It is incredible, you guys, on how much not only locations feel real, but really just the props and costumes are just incredible. And it's just amazing to see how much work was put into this movie, and it looks fantastic. The visual effects are gorgeous. Just like with the first movie, you forget that you're watching a movie. I really give a round of applause to the VFX artists for putting incredible detail into the environments, the sandworms, and the ships, because they are stunning to look at. It is just incredible to see how much detail that they can put into these ships, or even the sandworms. It's just amazing to me, and so brilliant of VFX that can truly bring a world to life. Hats off to those VFX artists. They are incredible for making this world feel alive. The story is also great, picking up where the last film left, seeing how Paul is, after the slaughtering of his father and his family, has led Paul to seek vengeance on the Harkonnens and the Emperor himself. The film also goes deep into the whole Messiah conversation, where Stilgard and the older, Fremen think that Paul is the chosen Messiah. There's Chani and the younger Fremen who think the whole prophecy idea is being used to enslave their people. I mean, even Chani says it in the film, is this idea that messiahs can also lead to people's enslavement because of following somebody who is just destined to be this, when really it should be everybody who should be destined to lead their people, not just one person. I was really fully invested on the story, and it was just really satisfying to watch by the end, and I was really, really happy to see this movie at least end on a satisfying note. The action sequences are excellent, just like the previous film. The hand-to-hand combat are exciting and tense throughout. From Fade Rotha's Coliseum fight, near the beginning of the movie to the final showdown between Paul and Fade, the action keeps the audience on the edge of their seat, man. Especially that ending fight. That ending fight is incredible. There's no music, no sorts of loud orchestral moments or even characters off to the side talking. It is just between Paul and Fade, both Timothée Chalamet and Austin Butler duking it out. It is really intense to watch. The pacing and runtime, I think, works very well for the film. Since this is the second part, the film wants to still take its time with telling a story. I think that works well to this film because without having to rush everything, it works to the film's credit by making sure that its story takes its time to be told. Clocking in at 2 hours and 37 minutes, that's how a finale should be to conclude the film on the right note. Seeing as that this is a part 2 for at least the first book, I think this works really well, and I think that's why the runtime for me is perfect for what it's supposed to be. Though the film, I think, is amazing, there's only one issue with the film that holds it from having the same rating as the first film. There is only one negative, you guys, and if this negative could have been fixed, this could be up there with the first movie, but alas, this holds it back for me, which is some of the changes from the book are noticeable. For example, Topher Halfwhat's story is nowhere to be seen. Stephen McKinley Henderson character that you saw in the first movie, who of course is in the book, his story is actually explored more in the book, and they explain what happened to him compared to the movie. The movie kind of just doesn't go anywhere, and even Villeneuve has stated that there was deleted scenes with him and even Tim Blake Nelson, who was supposed to play another character in the film. Their scenes were cut, which is, I think, unfortunate because I just think it's disappointing to not see what happened to him. And it's just a shame because Stephen McKinley Henderson, I think, is a talented enough actor that I wish I could have seen more of him. Another example I do have to mention is Faye Rother's presence. I feel like in the book, Fade is in a good amount, which makes it exciting to read because it's always nice to see this character who is the opposite of Paul Atreides just be played out, and it's just amazing to see these two go at each other. But in the movie, although played brilliantly by Butler, I feel like his screen time seems and kind of feels reduced in a way. I know, it's 2.5 hours, but even then, I still wish they could have added more to him. And it just makes it kind of a little bit disappointing to see that he just doesn't have as much screen time. Overall, I think Villeneuve caps off Herbert's first book in a satisfying way while also leaving it open for a sequel to continue. But for now, Dune Part 2 is an epic conclusion to the first film and being a perfect adaptation of Herbert's novel. And I really mean that, you guys. It is exciting to see that Denis Villeneuve managed to pull it off in the end. And I can't wait to see what he does for Dune Messiah, because I truly think that he really does understand this world. If you haven't had a chance to see Dune Part 2, I highly recommend it. I'm going to give Dune Part 2 a 9 out of 10. It is incredible, you guys. I think it is amazing. One of the best movies of the year. I'm so happy that I got to see it. I will be doing my reviews for the Kung Fu Panda series and then, of course, some other movies. So, yeah, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.